On Sunday, 22nd of September 2019, most of the world was as normal as the meaning of the word could be. Meanwhile, in London, England, executives of the British Thomas Cook Airlines were going to meetings, making calls, and scrambling to secure an emergency funding of $249 million on the last stand to avoid bankruptcy. Eventually, the following morning at around 2:15 a.m., Thomas Cook officially declared bankruptcy. Flight operations and ticket sales were seized, 21,000 employees were left jobless, and 600,000 passengers stranded. Of these were some 150,000 Britons whose country came to the rescue with the biggest repatriation since the Second World War. The British government launched what it called Operation Matterhorn to bring its citizens home, subcontracting flights from over 14 carriers, which included a wet lease airline company called WhyThe. WhyThe, with what made most rethink the fate of the A380s, landed their second-hand A380 passenger aircraft in Gran Canaria Island in a runway barely 200 meters longer than the 2900 required for the A380 as part of the repatriation. And the world witnessed one job only the A380 can successfully accomplish: mass transportation at a time of severe need. The Airbus A380 Super Jumbo Jet was made to compete with the Boeing 747 and disrupt the hub-and-spoke model of the airline industry, transporting a large number of passengers from one hub airport to other destinations. Unfortunately, the model was left wordless after the long-foreseen shift of the industry to a point-to-point short-haul flights model. This made the A380 a bad gamble both for the airliners that bought around 250 of it and for the manufacturing company Airbus. This is widely discussed in our last video, and its link can be found in the description along with sources for our research on this video. Unsurprisingly, it all started falling apart in 2017 when Singapore Airlines announced it will be the first airline to retire an A380. Lufthansa also announced it will be retiring 6 of its A380s in 2022, which it then moved to 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Qantas followed, announcing some of its A380s will not be coming back to service. Another big news hit when Air France announced it will be the first airline to withdraw all its fleet of A380s, a fleet of 10. British Airways then took a whole different route, sending half of its A380 fleet to an aircraft graveyard called Châteauroux. That doesn't sound right.
Châteauroux
in France. This raises the question, what does the future hold for the giants of the sky? The solution that comes first to mind is selling the A380s to anyone willing to take the risk. But airlines are now favoring smaller, fuel-efficient aircrafts which are far more cheap and flexible. This takes the focus from commercial airlines to tour operators, charter companies, billionaires, and militaries. The second no-brainer is converting the Super Jumbo Jet to a dedicated cargo aircraft, which at a first glance makes perfect sense given its enormous size. As a final resort, the aircraft can be scrapped for parts. Early builds of the A380s are estimated at $80 million in parts per plane in 2019, expected to plummet to $35 million by 2023. Unfortunately, almost all of these are not economical, and some even practical. To start with conversion to cargo, a 747-400 can easily be converted to cargo with small adjustments and a new large freight door. When it comes to the A380, loading cargo is much trickier. Of course, the lower deck is not a problem, but not the upper one. To efficiently access the upper deck, airports will need the appropriate jet bridges and scissor lifts, which most do not have and financially do not plan to own. If a nose loading door was to be made for it like the 747, then the cockpit would have to be raised above deck, which would add more weight over regulations. Moreover, the upper floor is not strong enough to carry cargo, making it virtually useless. so airlines are better off operating 747s or even other dedicated cargo planes like the 777F, 787-9 or A350s. For such reasons, the initial idea of the A380 freighter died even before production, as all orders from FedEx, UPS, ILFC and Emirates were eventually cancelled. So selling your A380s becomes the viable choice. According to analysts, a half-life A380 built in 2005 is worth $77 million, where one built in 2019 is worth $276 million in the second-hand market. Meanwhile, a new Boeing 737-700 can go for as low as $89.1 million with a capacity of about 150 passengers in January of 2019. And for much less than $276 million, anyone can buy a new Boeing 787-8 with the capacity to hold 296 passengers while only burning 2.77 liters of fuel per 100 km per passenger compared to 3.27 liters per 100 km per passenger for the A380. Simple math dictates purchasing the A380 unjustifiable. When it comes to luxury, the A380 is second to none, making the private aircraft market ideal for the A380. Singapore Airlines put double beds and armchairs in its first-class suites, and Emirates included private suites with spa showers. Etihad took it further to include 3-room suites with living rooms, bedrooms and showers, along with double beds and flat-screen TVs, then called it the Residence, going for an affordable price of $80,000 a ticket from Sydney, Australia to London, England. While these airlines were making seats worth an annual cost at Harvard, the Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal took it to a whole different level when he purchased a custom-made A380 for $402 million. The aircraft included any and all fancy, including a garage for cars, a stable for horses and camels, and a pen for hawks. You know, an average Joe of a requirement. And just like that, we are almost at the end of this video. If you're still here, you should consider subscribing. The future of the A380s now hangs at the intersection of freighters, parts sale, and private luxury. Most have given their best prediction. What is yours? Share it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, you should consider liking it, sharing it on your socials, and checking out these other videos.